Hey guys, welcome to a Gods Unchained video with TeamStreamTeam. This is the Professerf. I am joined by my teammate, Mirage88. How are you doing, Mirage?
Doing good, doing good. An interesting new set to talk about. Always fun.
Definitely. All right, in today's YouTube video, we are going to be focusing on the set that Gods Unchained announced, the Band of the Wolf. We are not going to talk about individual cards though in this video. What we are going to talk about is the overall strategy and approach that Gods Unchained is taking with the set. So we're going to go over several different topics. We're going to go ahead and start here, Mirage. First of all, we know that the new set here only has 38 cards, so it's following the trend of Light's Verdict and Winter's Wonderland, where it's a smaller set. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd prefer that they do what other card games do and just do like every 3 or 4 months do a larger set. Both because it has a bigger impact on like meta and just leads to more interesting new decks. But also because this just is like, this like kind of patch approach of like we're just gonna keep patching things. Yeah, it makes new cards and makes them valuable, but like you're just continually devaluing Mortal Judgment into like everything costs zero, basically, right? Um, so I would prefer that they just do larger sets. I'm assuming that they don't because they're much more focused on, say, launching mobile and other things than like actually having a sustainable way, like process for pumping out new cards. So yeah, I guess I understand why they're doing it, but I'd say I'm personally not a fan. I would prefer that they just do the normal thing of let's just do like 100 plus card sets every, even if it's every 6 months, like however often is reasonable for them to do that.
Right, that makes sense. I think you're right. Mortal Judgment has been out for so long now, and cards are just getting the supply is getting inflated, and they're all going down. Uh, the prices are going down. It's just so readily available. Uh, it's a good point that you brought up that maybe this approach is trying to coincide with their strategy of mobile. My take actually was I thought that they were going with the smaller mini sets because I think, as far as I know, the GU team is still looking for balanced leads or a balanced team. Not 100% sure on the status of that, so I thought smaller sets might be easier to balance. That's just speculation on my part. But that's what I was thinking why they're coming up with the smaller set approach. But I agree with you. I think
Probably
the
just don't have the team. I think we were saying the same thing in different ways. Yeah, they just don't have the bandwidth to do like the correct approach, which is full sets.
Yeah, and I guess let's talk about that a little bit. The correct approach. I know in traditional card games and even Hearthstone, if that's what we're comparing things to, they like to do the expansions. 3 to 4 expansions a year. But I guess in this crypto space of blockchain games, I know it's a trading card game which follows traditional rules, but maybe this could be the approach. Maybe mini sets are the way to go. Obviously, there's the impact with balancing and meta impact, but I don't know who like. I guess do you see any strong cons with not following the traditional correct approach?
I mean, yeah, the cons are kind of what I said before. It's that
Yeah,
you're not having significant meta impacts, right? And if you
yeah,
do, it's because you're forcing the new sets to constantly be more powerful. So you're going to just have
uh,
even more power creep than you usually have in games, right?
right,
Like older sets are going to become just more and more useless.
yeah,
The way normal card games, Hearthstone, Magic, others deal with this is you do set rotations, right? You have a standard format that's like the cards from the last 3 years, like whatever you want to do. But there's a reason that those games all use that format, right? Like
right,
Magic's been around for how long now? Like 30 years.
yeah, 30.
Like they've done some experimentation too, and pretty much every game that's successful does that format, and they do it for a reason.
Right.
I'm not against experimenting. I just like don't quite understand like what the upside to this is. You're kind of
Okay.
just like forcing people to pay a lot of money for a small set, and you keep ratcheting up the power level of these new cards to force people to buy them. And
Yeah, and I
anyway,
think
I
yeah, you're right. Okay, that makes sense. And then you brought up a good point about set rotation, right? Now, if we're rotating mini sets, how impactful will that be, right? Because you're not really taking out a good chunk of it unless you're like you said, you're putting out a good set of an expansion set with a good number of cards. Then that's really more impactful when several cards move out. So definitely, Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Right? Experimentation is good, but again, like you said, there's the history and the tried and true format to keep in mind. Hopefully, we'll see things whether it's normalized or stabilized once GU's bandwidth opens up. How about the time period here, Mirage? What do you think about 4 weeks? Is 4 weeks about right for a mini set, or do you think this is going to severely limit supply?
I think the 4 weeks matters less than the fact that they have a cap on the number of cards that are out there. I mean, I guess they're both impactful, but
Right.
like the cap, I think matters more just because you can know for sure versus other sets, like how many cards there are going to be. Yeah, exactly this. Like, even if every single one of these card pack limits sell out, um, the size of like the amount of cards per rarity is going to be like in the range of what you see for like Trial of the Gods was, and that also has pretty low supply versus the player base when it grows. Um, so yeah, like a combo of like yeah, there's a short time frame to do it. I would say the player base isn't like massive right now. They still haven't launched mobile. They still haven't launched all these things to get a large player base. It means that like yeah, this is going to be a low supply set. No matter any way you cut it, both because of the 4 weeks and just because even if players show up, these packs will just sell based on what they're saying unless they somehow backtrack on this supply cap. So yeah, it's going to be a very low supply set, which is going to create some, in my opinion, kind of artificial scarcity. It's going to make the cards valuable. I think that's true. I just don't. I'm kind of against this like artificial
Cap.
pumping of card value for.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to play the game, right? I don't want it. I don't want cards to be artificially valuable.
Right, because there's not so much, so much of the cards that people are forcing to pay a lot just to kind of get the cards. That makes
Right. My
sense.
my concern is like you have a bunch of sets like this. They become they stop after 4 weeks. You do it while the user base is currently small, which means you're going to have a small supply cap, and you're forcing a small supply cap either way. So they're not even like trying to get away from this. Then if your user base ever does grow, and these cards are like in any way important to the meta, and they are seemingly all pretty high power cards,
Right.
like any new user that comes in is just not going to be able to afford most decks that use these cards, which then is going to force them to sort of sunset them or create a standard format like we were talking about. So I don't know. It just feels like they're not thinking ahead very well on this, right?
Yeah.
They're doing everything assuming that the current user base is the only user base size they're ever going to have. So
Yeah.
that's my issue with it.
Yeah, which is strange. It doesn't in this article. I didn't see anything mentioned of it, but what I've heard, even in a Council of Mortals meeting from GU themselves, they've said that they plan to reprint or rebrand or resale Light Verdict cards. So I didn't quite hear that if that's the case for.
So maybe that's the case with these sets.
Um,
I guess I don't.
yeah, it doesn't
I
say
was
it.
assuming because of these card pack limits that meant that like this is the only chance to get these cards. I guess you're right. I guess I haven't seen a
Yeah, it's
confirmation that like they would never reprint.
exactly. So I think there might be, they're kind of trying to keep that ace up their sleeve. They're not explicitly saying these are the only time it'll be available. They're saying these packs are, but maybe they could rebrand these packs as,
Uh,
as a different, I don't know, different marketing push with different cards. But okay. Yeah, I think
okay,
you're
so
right.
that's maybe just a little misleading on scarcity as
Yeah,
opposed
we'll
to anything
see.
else.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I didn't see anything about this specific set here about that, but I know in LV it's been talked about that the cards will come out
Got it.
again.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about a little bit about the pricing. And then I know you have some opinions about the cards and the crafting, but how do you want to approach this? Do you want to just talk about the pricing and the overall value you think you're getting, or do we need to talk about the value of the cards before we could really go into pricing?
Um, no, I think you can talk about just like the value of the packs just based on like the known scarcity for now.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, like based on those pack limits from before and sort of the amount of cards you get. So it looks like here in the crafting pack, you only get 2 cards on a rare. Booster pack, you get 3 cards that have a chance to go up to epic and legendary. So it's kind of like your normal booster packs. The shiny packs, you get 4 cards. So it's weird that like each pack is like a different number of cards.
Yeah.
And then obviously the shiny packs have some level of shine to them, which shows later. And then in the super pack you get 5 cards. So for this, like, and then based on like all of those, like if every pack sold out on the amount that they're doing, and if every pack that they've allocated to weekend ranked rewards actually gets given out in rewards, um, then per card, roughly the sort of supply I think is similar to Trial of the Gods. I went through and did the math. I'm not sharing my screens here, so I won't show it. But like, I think per common card you get roughly um, 50,000, and in Trial you had roughly like 25,000. But that 50,000 is going to go way down because of all this required forging to get the legendaries.
Right.
You're gonna have about 25,000 rares here versus 10,000 in Trial of the Gods. You're gonna have about 6,000, maybe 6,500 epics, which is exactly the amount per epic you have in Trial. And then the big difference is in Trial of the Gods, you had about 3,500 NFTs per legendary. Whereas here, even if everything sells out, you can only get 2 legendaries in the packs, which are the two non god ones, the two neutral legendaries.
Right.
And there's only even with all of these, you only expect to get about 400 to 500 per card, versus 3,500 for Trial of the Gods. So like you're not gonna have many even of these neutrals. Um, you're gonna have zero of like through the packs of all the other legendaries, right? So the only way to get them is by forging up all of these other packs. Um, so the legendaries are going to be, I think, if I am doing the math right, extremely scarce,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to have to get them via forging. And even before forging, like the commons and rares and epics, like you didn't have that many more than even you had in Trial of the Gods, which is not a high count set per NFT, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think this is going to be an extremely scarce set, assuming that any of these cards are used in the meta, which I mean, we
There's a
haven't talked about card quality, but most of them seem pretty good. I haven't like tough to say exactly how many, but like some of these will for sure be in meta decks, right? So
yeah. I think Mudman and Caution Fund have content coming out on the individual cards themselves, but from just a general response that people have said, I mean, they're seeing crazy combos and, but again, we gotta keep in mind, a lot of these sets come out and it's an open
yeah, they'll
balancing
balance
phase.
them,
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, like presumably the GU team wants they'll balance them, but they want these cards used in competitive decks.
Right.
Like that's kind of the point of why they're doing this. They're trying to update what is effective, what becomes like a kind of stale metagame, right? So they want these to be used. Given that they want them to be used, it seems just like there's going to be a very, very low number of them,
Yeah.
especially for the legendaries. And then because the only way to get a legendary is to forge
To craft for it.
meteorite
Yeah.
epics, you're going to drive down the number of epics as well. So it
Yeah.
just seems like yeah, there's it will cause a lot of forging activity, but you're going to have a very low number of cards, even in relation to pretty low supply sets like Trial of the Gods.
Yeah. Good point there for sure. I agree. How about the drop rates? Anything stand out for you in terms of the drop rates in the pack, or is it pretty standard?
The interesting thing for me here is that again, I think you're going to want to get meteorite epics, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to forge those into a shadow epic to get it's the only way to get the legendaries. At least that's what this article says. Um, it seems like the easiest way to get meteorite epics is through normal booster packs. In fact, they're pretty much the only pack I think
Yeah.
uh, that allows you to get a good number of these. Um, I haven't quite gone through and figured this out yet, like exactly like if the shiny pack can give you meteorite. I think the shiny pack might only give you
Shiny epics.
shadow shiny epics, in which case it would actually be like less valuable, oddly, if you can't use those shadow epics to get to forge into legendaries.
Yeah.
Um, so there's some things here that I still this article isn't like super explicit on like all of these like edge cases for how the forging works. But my default with what know right now is that like the generic booster packs for $8 are like by far the best value here because you need to use the epics out of them to get the legendaries, and that's the only way to get the legendaries, which are going to be very low supply. Uh, so yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the way to go. But maybe some of these like questions will get answered in terms of like if you can forge some of the higher shine stuff, then that'll be useful too. But since you literally can't open the legendaries that you need to forge, like the shiny packs become far less valuable, I think.
Yeah, yeah. We could, I guess we could talk about that right now. We could jump to that. So, the concern that we are talking about there is that here's the crafting table for making a legendary. The table says if you make a shadow epic card, you will get a meteorite legendary. So it's telling you that forging 5 shadow epics will give you a meteorite legendary. So that's what.
I think
Go ahead.
forging one shadow epic will get you a meteorite legendary. So like taking
Oh,
five
right, right.
meteorite epics and forging it
Make.
into one shadow epic will get you a meteorite legendary. Yeah.
All right, right. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, thank you. So yeah. So if you take your 5 meteorite epics, which come from the regular booster pack, and then you make it into a shadow epic, you end up getting a legendary. Now, let's say you've done that multiple times, and you now have 5 shadow epics of the same card. This the way this is laid out right now, it doesn't answer that if you take 5 shadow epics and you forge it into a gold, will you get can you get another meteorite legendary or something better? So that's what Mirage is saying, that if you end up getting
Or you get
a.
anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what Mirage is saying here, where if you get a shiny booster pack and you get a shadow epic already, so meaning you already have a shadow epic, what are you going to do with those shadow cards if you cannot forge them to get a legendary? So that's where Mirage is saying that it might be more valuable to get the plain meteorite epics because you could forge those up versus getting a shiny epic that may or may not forge up to a legendary. Did I capture that correctly, Mirage?
If yeah, yeah. And then if that's the case, it's going to be weird because you're going to see the meteorite epics trading on secondary at a higher price than the shadow epics because you're going to need the meteorites to get a legendary, and it's going to be the only way to get the legendary because you literally can't open them in packs.
Right.
So it's going to be odd. Like the meteorites are going to be way more valuable than the shadows, which I don't know.
If that's
I
intention.
would guess that's not intended.
Yeah.
And maybe this article just isn't explicit enough. Maybe you can forge the shadows to a gold and get, let's say, like a shadow legendary. In which case, what I'm saying is not true. But the article just isn't clear.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed. Anything else on the drop rates for the cards?
Um, no, nothing crazy. I mean, obviously the legendary drop rates are low, but that's because you can only open two of them. Uh,
Yeah.
like the other six legendaries you can only get via crafting or
Yeah, through
forging.
crafting. Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, there's not a lot else, right? Like again, if you buy shiny packs, you're not getting any commons. But again, the commons should be easy. The problem is you need so many commons to forge to get to anything valuable, right?
Yeah.
Like most people will probably just be buying and getting the normal booster packs through the rewards. And that'll get you your commons, rares, and epics. So like in theory, people can get those. It's really just like how do you get these legendaries, and that requires forging the 5 meteorite epics, and that's difficult. That's just very difficult to do. Even with the commons, in order to get one meteorite epic, you need the diamond common. You need 125 commons,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like it's a little silly in terms of value. Like Epic should not be worth 125 commons. That seems a
Yeah.
little excessive.
And then here's another example of what you were saying, right? You're saying that if the article is saying that epic meteorites are what's needed, your booster packs are the best chance because you have a 94% chance of getting that meteorite level quality. But if you start going into the shiny packs, and speculation here that shadow or better epics can't be crafted to legendary, then you're almost only giving yourself a 5% chance to get a craftable epic, right?
Right. So they're going to have to make clear here, and presumably they're going to say if you craft a shadow into a gold epic, then we'll give you a shadow legendary, right? If they say that, then this is fine.
Yeah.
And then there's actually value to this. But until then, I don't see why you would buy a shiny.
Yep. Yep. Got it. All right. So we talked about card pack limits, discount. If if people looking to buy this, you want to buy early to get that discount. Um, so we've been talking about crafting, so we'll go into more details here. This is where the example that we're talking about. We'll skip down to the bottom real quick to the legendary because we've talked about that. So this is the only way, as Mirage was saying, for you to get these legendaries is you have to craft. You have to forge these cards. So you have to forge 5 Master of the Mills Meteorite to get a Shadow Master of the Mill, which will then give you an Argus. And just shout out real quick to community member Suli. He's over on Twitch and runs community events like tournaments. He created this visual here, which is basically the table but in a visual format. So it'll be easier to see. So here's what we're talking about. If you have 5 Meteorite Master of the Mills, it takes 5 to craft a shadow. Once you forge a shadow Master of the Mills, you get this legendary. Anything specific you want to talk about in the crafting, Mirage? I know you talked about the insane scarcity of the the legendary and the caveat with, what can we do with the higher level shines of epics, but anything particular? I guess what's your take on the crafting event to get these cards?
I mean, in general, I like the idea of being able to craft cards into other cards. I think it's a fun thing you can do
Hmm.
with NFTs. I'm not sure I like that it's the only way to get cards, right? I like the idea as like, hey, we've launched this set and you can open any card, but like there's other ways in which like if you have too many of certain cards, like maybe you can craft them into something more useful. Like I like that. That's a fun way to just, allow more flexibility for people and what they can do. But when you kind of force people down this path is where
Hmm.
you better do it right, and I'm not sure they're doing it right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think you're right. It's a cool idea, but the delivery might need some tweaking because you're right. It's already a low supply count, and it's going to get even lower with this forced forging to get the cards that people really want. So potential issues there, right?
I mean, again, we'll see if they come out with any tweaks before they launch or clarifications. But as of right now, I think this is going to have some issues.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Anything else just on the overall crafting? This is pretty straightforward based on the table. For example, if you make a diamond common, you get epic cards. So, for example, if you forge a Ranico Hearth Mother into a diamond common, you get a Master of the Mill. You see that here. Here's the common card. You need 125 of these, um, and I don't, and then you forge them into a diamond, and you'll get one epic. So quite,
Yeah, that's not the right ratio. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, like an epic shouldn't be worth 125 commons. It just shouldn't.
yeah. Okay. Uh, so that's how the table's laid out. Any other takeaways on the crafting? I'm calling it a crafting challenge here. Any other takeaways on the crafting challenge, Mirage?
No, I think I've said all the important bits I wanted to say.
Okay. So nearing the end here of our discussion, there's some additional rewards here. We have trinkets for owning certain cards that are missing. Um, a really easy trinket here. Anyone that just plays a ranked game, one ranked game with any of the expansion cards will help add to a counter. And then once the counter seems like it's pretty low number to reach that many games, and then everybody that participated will get a war banner trinket. They haven't showed the image on it, so it looks like there's some freebies here. People do like trinkets on their board, and also getting boards themselves. And then we have a card back here for the Banner the Wolf, and obviously the free ways to get the packs. Um, I know you've shared a lot of opinions and information here, Mirage. Any other takeaways before we end this on the overall set approach and maybe delivery of the set?
Yeah, I'll just be curious to see if they tweak anything beforehand. If not, I'll be buying a lot of the normal boosters. Um, and yeah, I personally hope they move away from some of this like artificial scarcity stuff.
Yeah,
Give people flexibility, not artificial scarcity. Flexibility is way better.
yeah, good points. So the things that we're recapping here from this video, our takeaway is mini sets might be cool now and then, but not something we're liking in terms of producing content, we'd like to see full-fledged sets. Um, the low supply count of the set could potentially cause an issue. On top of that, with requirements of forging as the only way to get certain cards. And again, I think we've talked about this a lot. We need more clarity on just the article itself or just the overall process on how to get these cards that are only available a certain way. So yeah, thank you so much, Mirage. Appreciate the time that you spent. Some good feedback and information here. Anything else before we end?
Nope. This is good jump. We'll see what happens on this.
All right, all right. Thanks again, Mirage. And if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section on the YouTube. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey, you! Did you know that subscribing to the TST YouTube channel will increase your win rate by 6.9%? So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications. And while you're at it, equip Scythe of the Harvest and attack the like button directly in the face. Bye-bye!